This is what I did for 25 years, from 25 to 51 years old. Spent my most valuable asset, time, to get money, terrified every second of every day. That's really what's driven me the whole time, was terror. Like, when you don't know, you're gonna be scared. So I'm going out to get money. I won't spend any of it because I'm terrified if I can't, I don't know how to get more. I'm worried I can't keep getting more. So then I'd get the money and then I'd rush off and spend my most valuable asset, time, again, to bring it to the bank. They're telling me to save it and they don't. And so when I quit listening to everybody that's got an opinion about money online, or my neighbors or my uncles, and I started saying, what are they doing? When I quit studying the influencers and started studying the banks, Goldman, JP Morgan, KKR, there's just an endless list of these guys.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because I need them, because I don't always wake up and feel motivated to go take on the day. And the thing that saves me, that helps me every day, is being around people who are thinking bigger, who are changing the world, and it gives me a little more inspiration to go after my mission. And so I hope this video helps you go after yours today too. So today, let's learn from some money experts on how to go from 0 to $1 million. Enjoy.
You start studying those guys. Elon, study Elon. Elon doesn't keep any cash. He thinks the whole thing's a joke. Which he's probably right. So what does he do? He reinvests everything. He's not paying debt off. He's accumulating debt. But Apple has debt, Google has debt, Facebook has debt, and they have cash reserves that are the biggest cash reserves on planet Earth. They could pay cash for everything, but they don't.
Why do they get debt when they have all the cash? Why do they do that?
Because if I take, man, you got a little whiteboard right there, man. God dang. Okay, so if I take, Apple just did this. Okay, I want to make a $90 billion purchase. I want to make and they're like, yeah, we got the cash for that. In fact, we have cash plus another 50%.
Yeah,
we got plenty of cash to do this. Okay, and then one of their people says, okay, bro, you do that? That is not a tax deductible event. What we should do is we should go keep this and go borrow $90 billion.
Really?
At like 0.005%. Like, they're gonna pay a half of 1% for this debt. Maybe they pay 1%, who cares?
Right.
They're like, I don't care, it's a tax deduction anyway.
Interesting.
So now they have the best of both worlds. They have their cash and they have debt. Now, when I was growing up, this debt would cost 10, 12, 15, 18%.
But it's so cheap now.
This debt, because we print money. Money is not scarce, like our parents told us. Like, when I was growing up, I bet you I heard at least from my mother, from the age of 10 to 15, if I didn't hear this 500 or 1,000 times, I never heard it once. We don't own the electric company. Turn those lights out, boy. I still have that going on today. My mom told me my dad would, because he worked so hard, dude. He was so like, oh, I finally got it. I finally made it. Now I got to protect it. He got stuck in the second piece, keeping it. You know, it's an emotional keep. And so it's not a rational thing, because you're hoarding now, you know. Still today, man, it's tough for me to buy blue jeans if they're not on sale. I'm like, this is stupid, man. Like, well, I'm just going to wait.
Right.
You know? So you know what I'm saying? But it's really stupid that I even worry about it.
Right.
And I'm not saying on the come up, I think you should worry about it.
Right.
But there needs to be where you can turn that switch off.
Rule number 2 is start investing with Amit Sethi.
Investing does not mean you have to wear a suit and tie and be looking at 15 screens with green letters rolling across. This is all bullshit, okay? Real investors are not checking their accounts every day. You know how often I advise people to look at their investment accounts? Once every 6 months. It's boring. This is not a TNT drama, okay? You want to have fun? Get HBO. This is not that. Investing is you set it up once, you automatically have money sent from your checking account every month, and that's it. That's it. And you can actually mathematically predict exactly when you will become a millionaire or have 500K or 5 million. So what kind of investments are we talking about? In my opinion, the investments that I have put most of my net worth into are simple, low-cost index funds. Now, let me tell you what an index fund is. Most people think, investing is like picking stocks. No, it's not. Even Wall Street professional investors, when they pick stocks, they fail to beat an index fund over 80% of the time. So an index fund is basically a collection of different stocks. Imagine those Planters peanuts you get, those ones? Instead of just trying to pick out peanuts, you get the Planters mixed nuts. It's got the almonds and the pecans and all that stuff. That's an index fund. It's got a whole bunch of different stocks in it. When you invest, you do not have to become an expert in these companies. The simplest thing you can possibly do to start investing today is to get something called a target date fund. Now, let me tell you why this is so easy and how it works. Let's pretend that you are, 30 years old, let's just say, okay? And that means that we can assume you're going to retire in 35 years, okay? So what you do is you go over to Fidelity or Vanguard or any of the places that I talk about in my book, and you open up a target date fund. The target date fund is going to be like a 2050 fund or whatever the number is that corresponds to when you retire. All it is one simple fund. It's like a pie chart. And all you do is just send money in there every month. Now, when you get this target date fund, again, we're talking about how do I start investing? When you invest in a target date fund, it's low cost, it's really cheap, and all you're doing is picking one fund. It's automatically diversified. So your only job is just to put as much money as you possibly can into it. And as you get a little older, it will automatically become conservative, and you can predict, because we know the historical returns of the market, which are about 7 or 8% per year, you can actually predict when you will become a millionaire.
Rule number 3 is use social media with Cody Sanchez.
You are putting a lot of effort into social media. I am putting a lot of effort into social media.
No.
Why are you doing it? What's the point of growing this? Is it just ego? Is it, because there's probably a little bit that definitely drives me. But why do you do it?
I started it in 2020 for a couple different reasons. One was I got a little bored because I wasn't doing road shows and private equity like I was for the past 15 years, running around every week. You know the deal, raising money from investors, vetting deals. I was working 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. And when COVID happened, I had a little bit of time, and I actually got to take a step back and think for a minute. And in that period, I was trying to think about leverage. So basically, what is the highest leverage activity for my time that I could spend in this moment? And for most of my career, I hadn't thought that way. I had really sort of thought, what's the next step in my career? And then the next step. But there's a power play to determining how you want to spend your time. And if you can actually think, okay, what is the, as Archimedes said, give me a fulcrum and a lever, give me a fulcrum and a lever to place upon it. And if you have a long enough version, you can move the world, right? And so I kind of thought about that with social media. And I think I read a post from Naval Ravikant that basically talked about the 3 levels of leverage, which was first employment or people. You could do something bigger than yourself if you convinced other people to join you. And then the second lever was capital. Most of the big wealthy humans that we know through time as titans, like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, were created during the Banking Act, right? When we got access to other people's capital at scale. And then the third was code. Bezos, Musk, Gates, all of these guys had early access to technology before other people did, and so they had an army of robots, quote unquote, online. And the fourth one that he hadn't talked about enough yet was audience. And audience, in my mind, is the first permissionless form of leverage. Banks, you had to ask for the money. Code, you had to have access to the technology. And for humans, you needed money to pay them, right? And now we had audience. And I thought, wait a second, I'm running around trying to raise capital for investment deals. I'm doing, I'm in the Million Mile Club. I'm doing 100,000 plus miles a year. It's actually not that fun. Yeah. What would it look like if instead of me going to people, I brought them to me? And once I started looking at the power of social media, I thought, I can't believe I haven't seen this before. In finance, we don't typically do social media because unlike real estate, we have way tighter rules for raising capital. And so I remember I worked at a firm where I had all these licenses, 66 and 63 and Series 7 and 24. And my firm said, if you say anything publicly, you could move the markets. I'm like, bro, it's like me and my mom on here. Yeah. Nobody's following my stuff yet. But they basically, my CEO at the time said to me, we get rich quietly. We get rich quietly and we don't talk about it. We don't make a ruckus. And I thought, I don't know. I think we could get rich in public if we did it the right way. And so that convinced me, I'm going to build a huge social audience. I'm going to never do another steak dinner and I'm going to see how big this could get. And it turns out I was right.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
Rule number 4 is operate by the 95-5 rule with Tillman Fertitta.
I operate by the 95-5 rule. 95% of everything we do in business, if we're doing anything, is right. So look for the 5%.
How do you find the 5%? This is so powerful. And reading it in the book, I was like, okay, here we go. So how do you spot the 5%? How do you know what 5% matters? How do you prioritize how you attack that 5%?
Okay, well, let me just say this, okay? I walked into this studio, okay? And I've done a lot of interviews, and as soon as I walk in, your people greet you, they introduce, this, you come up here, here's some snacks. There's even a camera light, so if they're doing your makeup up there, it's a perfect lighting. I could tell this guy has his act together. This guy, I'm having a hard time finding his 5% because they're doing everything right. And I'm not just saying that, but everything I'm saying is true. That you have somebody meet us outside, we're not walking around lost, so I hadn't found the 5% here. I'm sure before the show's over I will, but
it's there. It's there for sure. I think you're right. Everybody has.
But I judged you and your operation the second I walked in, and it's no different if I'm pulling up to a retail store or a hotel or a restaurant or whatever, and before I get to the front door, I'm pulling up in that parking lot. Is the parking lot in pretty good shape? Are there weeds out there? Are there cigarette butts in the parking lot? Are there lights burn out? The front door's got a bunch of smudges on it. I haven't even walked in yet, and I can tell you this isn't a crisp operation. I can tell you everything, how the operation's gonna be inside before I ever walked in the front door. Because if they're not taking care of the outside, the inside's not gonna be good.
Rule number 5 is learn how to sell with Robert Kiyosaki.
The fortunate thing was I had a rich dad, and I learned about money early. Mm-hmm. And so I keep asking people, what does school teach you about money? Nothing.
Right.
So that's why so many guys aren't rich, But my poor dad was a PhD in education. He had no money at all. And I didn't want to follow in his footsteps. So I started off with rich dad, poor dad. And my rich dad was the one teaching me how to be successful. Like I was just saying with Patrick McDavid is, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but rich dad said to me, he says, you got to learn how to sell. Now my poor dad thought salesmen were scum. So I had that going in my head. So when my rich dad says, learn to sell, I can hear my poor dad saying, well, salesmen are scum, they're crooks, they'll tell you they're liars and all this stuff. So that was in my head. So, oh my God. So finally, rich dad was saying to me, he says, how can I get rich without selling? Well, sales equals income, as you know. So when I find somebody who's poor because they can't sell. But a lot of it's because you have people like my poor dad saying salesmen are scum. Do you know what I mean? So that's inside your head already there. So when I said to my rich dad, I said, but I don't want to sell. I took real estate courses to get rich, like he advised. And finally, my rich dad asked me, so I just said, how's your sex life? So here, I'm a Marine, I'm in shape.
You're at what age at this point?
About 28, 27, 27. I'm physically in good shape and all this, live in a nice place, nice cars. So I said, but I don't want to sell. He says, so rich dad says to me, how's your sex life? It doesn't exist. Because you can't sell.
Really?
Yeah, it's because you can't sell. I'm going. So with that, I said, I'd better learn how to sell. And so rather than I was going to fly for the airlines because I was a pilot. I went to work for Xerox because they had the best sales training. So I was flown from Hawaii to Leesburg, Virginia, and learned how to sell and all this. And I realized then is that sales equals income, but in all areas of life, you cannot sell, you cannot communicate, cannot market, toast.
Rule number 6 is find your circle of competence with Warren Buffett.
how come you haven't bought Amazon? Is there still time to buy? Would you still buy it?
Oh, I always admired Jeff. I mean, I met him 20 years ago or so, and I thought he was something special, but I didn't realize you could go from books to what's happened there. No, I mean, he had a vision and executed it in an incredible way, something that it would not have, but there's a lot of games I miss. I would have missed, I would have missed Microsoft even if I got into Nobel earlier or something. Those just aren't my games. I don't worry about the things that I miss that are outside my circle of competence of evaluating. I have missed things that were within my circle, and that's a terrible mistake. Those are my biggest mistakes. You haven't seen them. But it's not a mistake because I miss Netscape or something like that at all. I would say that maybe 5% of the companies or 10% of the companies at most are within an area of my circle of competence. There's something I should be able to understand.
And rule number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is stop wasting money with Jay Shetty.
If you want to have more money, one way is to uncover the areas where you may be wasting money. And that's why we're talking about 5 common ways we throw money away.
Where exactly did your money go?
Money is something a lot of us struggle with. Check this out. In a 2019 employee survey at PwC, 71% of millennials said their money stress had gone up over the past year.
It is stressing me out.
And nearly half of all respondents said that they spend 3 hours or more every week thinking about or trying to sort out their finances. And money woes don't just affect us individually. 44% of young adults said that the money is the #1 stressor in their relationship.
I need to borrow some money.
And check out these stats. According to Erin Lowry, creator of the Broke Millennial blog, the average millennial graduated with $37,000 in student debt. That's in the States, and some have much more. That's enough to buy a brand new car or put a down payment on a house. Maybe you're like, yeah, don't remind me, Jay. Hey, I get it. Lots of us come from tough places financially, and you might be there now. Growing up, my family definitely was not what you'd call wealthy. For some of us, the hard times actually helped spur us on to success. Here's one of the stories that's really inspired me. It's of a young man who at 14 was evicted with his mother from their apartment and couldn't afford a place to live. By the time he was 16, he was arrested multiple times. Though he went on to secure a spot to play American football at a top college, in his junior year, he lost his spot and his NFL career opportunities with it. At one point, he found himself with only $7 in his pocket, but he kept working and striving. And today, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says that every time he experiences a big moment of success, he reminds himself of those early struggles when his back was up against the wall and the only way to go was forward. And that's why he named his company $7 Productions. Still, even if you don't have aspirations of becoming a mega movie star, financial security is within reach. And the place to start is to stop wasting money. Now, a little disclaimer first. What I'm going to share with you is for informational purposes only. It is definitely not intended as formal, legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. You want to consult a qualified licensed professional for that. Okay, so here are those 5 big areas where you can stop wasting money and get yourself on track financially.
Take notes, boys.
Let's start with a super common one that's really simple. Financial expert Suze Orman says, if you're buying a coffee every day, you may be literally flushing your chance to be a millionaire down the drain. You know, because after the coffee goes through your body, okay, never mind, you get it. Anyway, Orman says that if you invested the $100 or more per month, so many of us spend on coffee in a Roth retirement account, over 40 years with compound interest, you'd have $1 million.
What?
That's worth making your own coffee, right? Actually, the entire category of food and drink is a big one. Not only do we spend loads of money eating out for dinner, another big money waster people often overlook is lunch. Here's a quick quiz. How much do you think the average person spends on lunch in a year according to Visa? Is it A, $520, B, $1,280, and C, $2,746? If you guess C, you're right. The average person spends $2,746 per year on lunches. Now check this out. If instead of buying lunch, you invested that money every month in a basic savings account, over 20 years, you'd have, I hope you're sitting down, because this is unbelievable, you'd have $60,760.41.
I'm going to sit down.
And that's just with basic compounding interest. Okay, so here's another big way we waste money, buying new. Now here's the thing. I know for lots of us, I'll be honest, myself included, how we look is important. We enjoy fashion, but you can continue to have your unique look and have favorite brands and still spend less money on clothing. Here's a way to do that. I have another friend who's into designer brands, but would never pay designer prices. Her secret is to shop at consignment stores. And now that there are lots of these stores online, there are tons of items to choose from. And you can even shop by your favorite brands. The other month, I complimented my friend on a sweater, and she told me she got it for 65% less than the original price. And it came brand new with the tag still attached. Plus, shopping consignment also benefits the environment because we're recirculating clothes instead of just making more stuff. Beyond clothing, there are loads of things we tend to buy brand new that we really don't need to.
At some point, you have to decide whose life you're living. Are you living your version of your life, or are you living your parents' version of your life, or your friend's version of your life, or your community's version of your life, or society's version of your life? See, everybody has a goal for you, right? Everybody has an idea of what you should do with your life. Everybody has an opinion on how you should be, who you should marry, what job you should take on, how many kids you should have, you know, what profession to get into, what country to live in. Everybody's got an opinion on what you should do with your life. And when you are not standing on a rock solid foundation, what ends up happening is you get pulled in a million different directions. Like, there is no way that you're gonna make everybody happy. There's no way, because there's different competing opinions. And so if you're trying to make this group happy, and then that group happy, and then this group happy, and that group happy, you end up making nobody happy. And worst of all, you're not happy. The biggest problem of all is that you're not happy. I had somebody message me on Instagram the other day saying that they want to chase down their aspirational dreams, be an entrepreneur, but their parents won't let them. Like, okay. Well, at some point you have to decide, when are you living your life, and when are you living your parents' version of your life? And what that requires is you getting off the payroll, right? If you want to live your life, but you're living under their roof, that's a problem, right? When do you stand up for yourself? And maybe if you're 13 years old, that's too young. Maybe you can't do it. Maybe that's not possible, right? But is it at 16? Is it at 18? Is it at 20? Is it at 24? Is it at 32? Is it at 46? Like, it's people in their 50s still living the life that their parents want for them instead of the life that they want for them. Or again, their community, their partner, or the people around them, society. You're not living your version of your life. And so how do we fix it? How do you gain the courage? How do you gain the strength? How do you get the momentum? I'm gonna give you a couple strategies that I hope will help. Number one is to figure out your who. What's your single most important core value? I wrote a book called Your One Word, and another one called Built to Serve. And the first exercise that I guide people through is to figure out, what is your single most important core value? What do you stand for as a human? You know? And you can read the books to dive in deeper, but if you just thought about it, you spent 2 seconds and thought about it, close your eyes and ask yourself, what is my single most important core value as a human? What is it? And then from there, you gain a new sense of strength and courage, because mine is belief, right? So if you look at mine, believe, well, I need to then do things that are in accordance with belief. Whenever I'm not happy, whenever I'm not bold, whenever I'm feeling down, it's because there's a lack of belief somewhere in my life. Because I want to be doing something, but I'm not. I don't believe in myself, or I don't believe in the thing that I'm doing. It adds a level of clarity that I didn't have before. So what's yours? What's your single most important core value? You know, what do you stand for as a human? And don't worry about it being perfect, but if you're not happy right now, if your most important core value is freedom, and you are feeling trapped under somebody else's rules, you're not gonna be happy. You know why? Because your most important core value is freedom, right? It starts to make sense. So identify what that core value is, because it'll help you make better decisions. It gives you the rock to stand on instead of standing on quicksand. If you're being pulled in a million different directions by other people and their agenda for your time, it's because you do not have that rock. You know something is wrong. You know you're sinking, but you don't know why. And you don't know how to stand strong. This is it. Your single most important core value. Figure out your who. That's step number one. Step number two is, once you figure out your who, we need to start to limit access or cut out the things that make us feel against that. So if my who is believe, then anything that makes me feel a lack of belief, I want to stop spending time with. I want to unsubscribe from the channels that make me feel less than. I want to stop spending time with friends who pull me down. I want to dedicate myself to not being around the negativity. You know, think about the last time you scrolled through Instagram or you're scrolling through YouTube. How many of the videos and piece of content that you watched made you feel better about yourself, right? Like, did it make you feel better about yourself or worse about yourself? That's an important question. Thank you. Did it make you feel better about yourself or worse about yourself? And if it's worse about yourself, if you just found yourself scrolling for 40 minutes through Instagram and now you feel like a loser, it's not Instagram's problem. It's not the platform's fault. It's the people that you're following. Stop following the people who make you feel worse about yourself. How do you know? Well, you have an audit, right? Now that you know your single most important core value, you have a gauge. So for me, does this person that I'm subscribed to or following make me feel more or less believe? Cool. That becomes an easy decision on what to do next, right? Then you go to the people in your life, your friends, your family. Do these people make me feel more or less believe? For me, right? Insert your word for you. Cool. Less, stop spending time with them. Maybe completely cut off access. Or if it's, your parents or somebody really close to you, then put up walls over the things that you will talk about. Limit access. You may not go to the extreme of completely cutting the person out of your life, but at least limiting access so that you don't wake up every day and feel terrible, right? I think that stuff matters. So step number one is we're gonna figure out our most important core value. What's your who, right? Step number two is then we're gonna restrict access or cut off the people, the things that we're feeding into our mind that make us feel worse about ourselves. And then three is we need to inject new great things into our lives. We need to inject new positive, amazing people into our lives, right? People who make you feel your core value, belief, for me, right? So I make my videos still for myself. The videos on my channel, I wanna watch for myself. And thankfully, you guys like it enough that I can turn it into a business, bring on an amazing team, and help go off and inspire even more people. But it's a conscious choice. Most of us wake up like an accident and fall into our day. And it's time to make a conscious choice to shift that, to say no. Instead, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be really intentional with who I'm spending my time with, what I'm feeding into my mind, because that'll make a giant difference in how you show up. If you're constantly around negativity, distraction, pessimism, it's not that you can't show up and be great, it's just you're making things 1,000 times harder for yourself. Versus, and you felt it when you're around the people or you're in the environment where you feel bold and powerful and unstoppable and you can do anything. Guess what? You go off and you start doing amazing things that you never thought you were capable of. And so that's the key difference. You have to protect your dream. You have to realize that everybody has that dream for you, and it's not really for you, it's mostly for them, right? It's like they gave up on their dreams, they never chased down their goals, and so now they're putting all their hopes on you. They want you to go live the life that they never had. But that's not a fair burden to carry, because you don't want their life. You don't want the same things that they want. That's not what you want to do. And so if you can go through that process and recognize that, yes, you have Michael Jordan level genius at something, right? You have Michael Jordan level genius at something. You can be great. And it's probably not doing the things that your parents wanted you to do, or your family, your community, what you grew up learning in school. It's probably something completely different. And when you can figure out your most important core value, when you can completely eliminate or cut off access to the people, the things that bring you down, and we can inject the positivity into your life on a daily basis, on a consistent basis, it'll change everything. Everything. Time to get to work.
One of the things that will help you to do the work to create the things that you want in your life is it will help you if you train your mind to start spotting evidence as you're doing the work, as you're going through your day. It will help you if you train your mind to start scanning the world and spotting evidence that, yes, indeed, the world is sending you positive signals that things are going to work out. Now, why is it important to train your mind to help you get what you want? Well, the reason why is because if you get into a negative mindset, if you start thinking, this business is never going to work, why even bother? Or I'm never going to meet anybody. It's nothing but losers out there. Look at all these idiots on Hinge. Why the hell should I keep doing this? If you allow your mind to start to rest in a pessimistic, negative, protective, scared, and doubtful stance, your mind will continue to show you reasons why there's nobody on Hinge worth talking to. Your mind will continue to show you all the reasons why you will never make it in business. Your mind will continue to show you all the reasons why you're never going to lose that weight and be able to tuck in your shirt, as my friend Corinne Crabtree always talks about, that transformational moment. And when your mind goes negative, your mind starts to scan the world and will show you more reasons to stop. And the power of training your mind to spot positive signs is very simple. The power is that your mind will start to show you reasons to keep going. Your mind will help you take the step. Your mind will encourage you to feel optimistic, to feel empowered. Just like you woke up today on a Tuesday and it was February 22nd, 2022, and those numbers are lining up, and that makes you in your heart and soul go, whoa, something cool could happen today. Like that shit only happens like once in my lifetime, those numbers are going to line up like that. Today is a really cool day. Let's go do something with this. You could create that kind of attitude every single freaking day of your life. You could. If you train your mind and if you start taking action. And training your mind is the key piece that we're going to talk about. So for those of you that have read The High Five Habit, one of the things that I talk about a lot is every single day find a naturally occurring heart-shaped object in the world. It could be a stone, it could be a leaf, it could be a cloud, it could be a shape in your coffee. Hey, Chris, if we've got anything around here that looks like a heart, hand it to me. And the reason why I love telling you to start playing a game with yourself where you start your day going, mind, brain, show me some heart. Oh, what is this? Come here.
Dog treat.
Oh my God, it's a dog treat. Look at this, guys. What shape is that? That right there is a heart. There we go. Check that out. If you say, brain, mind, show me a heart today, guess what's going to happen? That damn dog biscuit, you're going to be like, there's a heart. You're going to look out at the sky and you're going to see a heart shape. Oh, right there in the mountains. There's a heart shape in the mountains in southern Vermont. You're going to see it in the clouds. What you're doing when you tell your mind what's important to you is you're telling your mind and the filter in your brain to change in real time and allow into your consciousness what's important to you. And if you want to see hearts, by God, those damn dog treats are going to start looking like hearts, everybody. That's how you train your mind. It's freaking incredible. And if you want to see evidence of this, follow me on social media. If you follow me, Mel Robbins, on social media, you will see every day I am reposting your stories of finding heart shapes around the world. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because it's a simple way to prove to you that your mind changes in real time. That if you get serious about becoming more positive and optimistic and encouraging of yourself, if you get serious about saying, this, I don't want to see all the reasons why I'm unhappy. I don't want to see everybody else in the world that's launched a business or that's lost weight and is healthy or that has a really good marriage or relationship. And I don't want to see that and have my mind process it as evidence that it's never going to happen for me. I want my mind to reprogram itself and see other people's businesses and see other people getting healthy and see other people in relationships. And I want my mind to say, yeah, if they can do it, I can do it. That's evidence. If that person can get healthy, so can I. If that person can find somebody on Hinge, so can I. If that person can reconcile with their child, so can I. Other people can become evidence that you can have it too. Right now, your mind is so f***ed up from your past that when you see what other people have and you don't have it, you can't actually translate it through a negative mind and see that that's evidence that you're going to win. You see it like, oh, somebody already stole what I wanted. That sucks. And so what I want to start to open your mind to is that you have the power to train your mind to filter the world differently. Just like you woke up and you saw the date today, 2/22/22, and your brain saw that and was like, whoa, this is a once in a lifetime day, everybody. You are never going to have another day that lines up like this. Ever. What are you going to do with this day? Your mind already interpreted this as, wow, something cool could happen. And if you tell yourself something amazing is going to happen today, something will, because you're going to be looking for it. I swear to God, something will. Something will. If you want to see the good all around you, you got to tell your mind you want to see the good. And this just isn't a bunch of horseshit, everybody. This isn't toxic positivity. There is a filter in your brain called the reticular activating system. The reticular activating system. I call it the RAS. I like to think about it like a giant hairnet on your head. And this RAS sits over your brain. I'm probably getting this wrong. I'm not a neuroscientist. I could give a shit about getting it right. I just need you to know the basics here so that you can apply it to your life, okay? You don't need a PhD to use the science that super smart people have been working really hard on in order to apply it to your life. That's what I'm here for in your life. I'm here to translate this stuff into simple, believable, and actionable things that you can do to take all this super cool stuff that people are researching and apply it to your normal person's everyday life to help you change from the inside out. And one of the coolest things that you have at your disposal is you have a whole system in your body that you can train and change. And one of those things that you can train and change that is impacted by that word you're hearing a lot of, neuroplasticity, that just means that things are able to twist and bend and change, and you're able to learn new things for as long as you're alive. As long as you're breathing, everybody, you got a chance to change the way that you think. As long as you are breathing, you got a chance to change from the inside out how you experience your life. As long as you are still here watching me, people, you got a chance to create a new experience in your life. And one of the things that helps a lot is understanding that right now, all of the bullshit from your past has jammed the filter in your mind, body, and spirit, the reticular activating system. And it is clouding your ability to look at the world around you and see hearts. Remember this? Dog treat, hearts. Look at that. There's a heart right there.
I don't know how many of you have read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, but I would highly recommend that. In Crime and Punishment, the protagonist commits the perfect murder. And he has his reasons for it, and many reasons, because Dostoevsky didn't mess around. When he wanted to give someone reasons, he gave them reasons. And Raskolnikov, the main character, had reasons for murder. And then he commits his murder, and he gets away with it. But things don't go well for Raskolnikov, because one of the things he finds out is that the Raskolnikov that you were before you committed the murder is not the same as the Raskolnikov as you are after you've committed the murder. And there's a dividing line there that you don't, it's like the red pill, I guess, right? It's that's the Matrix, correct? The red pill. And once there's certain actions, once you take them, there's no going back. And so that's what Crime and Punishment is about. And Raskolnikov tortures himself to death, well, not literally, but metaphysically, psychologically, because he cannot tolerate breaking the great moral code. And so it's a great book. It's truly a great book. And it's also extraordinarily, like it's a murder mystery thriller as well as being a deep philosophical book. So if you're in the mood for, a murder mystery thriller that's also a deep philosophical book, then that's the one for you. Human consciousness is that faculty that confronts potential itself. I think there's good neurological evidence for this, by the way, for those of you who are scientifically minded, because we build circuits within us for habitual action that we've practiced many times that seem to run in a very deterministic fashion. And we are a strange combination of deterministic and non-deterministic as far as I can tell. But what our consciousness seems to be for is to encounter those things that we have not yet encountered. And those things that we have not yet encountered seem to me to be those things that have not yet been brought into being. And so you could say that what our consciousness is for the encounter with potential. You know, that our consciousness is it's not for the past, it's not even for the present. It's to transform the future into the present. And really that's what our consciousness does. When you wake up in the morning, you have a new day ahead of you, and the day could take you in very many directions. And the weeks and the years, all of that can take you in very many directions. And you have some apprehension about what those directions might be. You have some apprehension about what role your choices might make in transforming that potential into one form of actuality or another. I mean, you certainly know that there are dreadful mistakes that you might be very tempted to make that would produce all manner of hell around you and still be tempted to do it. It seems like it's sitting there right in front of you as a possibility. You also know that, you could haul yourself up out of bed and attend to your duties and do the sorts of things that you're supposed to and set a few things right that day and that week, and that likely things would at least not be worse, and they would probably be better. And I do believe that I don't understand how this can be the case. I don't understand how it is that consciousness can function in that way, because I think to understand that, we would have to understand what it means for the future to be only potential rather than actuality, and who the hell understands that? I mean, no one. And then we'd have to understand how it is that our conscious choices and our conscious ethical choices transform that potentiality into actuality, into reality, into the present and the past. And we certainly act as if we believe that that's what we do. We upbraid ourselves. For example, when we do a bad job of it, we're upset with our children and those we love if we don't believe that they're living up to their potential. We're guilty and ashamed when we make choices that we feel are inappropriate. We understand to some degree that the manner in which time lays itself out has something to do with the ethics of our choice. And again, I would say that's a very deep idea. I think it's the most true idea I know. It's very emphasized, that idea emphasized in ancient religious stories such as those that are outlined in Genesis, or in Genesis with its strange insistence that, God is that which brings order out of chaos, formless potential, generates the world out of formless potential, and that we're somehow made in that image. Which seems to me to be the case. And that the proper way, by the way, to go about acting in that image is to act in relationship to the potential that confronts you with truth and with courage, with careful articulation. That's the logos. And that if you do that, then what you bring forth is good.
When it comes to an affirmation, affirmations can be powerful. Mm-hmm. And for some people, they're not. And a lot of people say, well, if the affirmation is so powerful, how come I'm not experiencing the effect? Mm-hmm. What scientists tell us is the average human speaks to themselves, consciously or unconsciously. We have thoughts spinning around in our brain, about 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day. Some of those thoughts are the words to the songs, and they are the affirmations. Neuroscientist Andrew Newberg tells us, Newberg is his name, I'm sorry, in his work that a single word has the power to change the genes that create stress or relieve stress in our lives. He's telling us that something within us has the ability to shift to the very core of our expression. So we know that words are powerful. The key to a successful affirmation is that we must communicate with the subconscious part of our mind, number one. Number two, we must communicate in the language that the subconscious recognizes. And this is where, you can say, I had a friend of mine when I was working in the corporations that had affirmations all over his office, all over his computer screen. They were on little Post-it notes in the car we would carpool in. My perfect mate is manifesting for me now. My perfect mate is manifesting for me now. That was his affirmation. And I said, do you say these things? He goes, oh man, I say them about 1 million times a day. I said, do they work for you? He says, nah. These things don't work. And I said, well, why do you think they don't work? And he said, look at me. He says, I'm an engineer. I'm a slob. He said, I wear the same clothes to work 3 out of 5 days during the week, and the bottom line, by the time he finished describing himself to me, even he didn't believe that he was worthy of his perfect mate manifesting for him now. So he was saying the words, but he was not, there was the underlying emotion, and what he was actually feeding into his system was counter to what those words were saying. So it's not enough to say the words. When we go into our most ancient and cherished spiritual traditions, those words are what become the prayers. And for many people, and I know you've heard this as well, a lot of people feel that prayer is broken, that the world doesn't work today the way it worked in biblical times, that we have lost our power and that we have no ability to communicate with a greater power, with God, with the forces around us. And it's largely because the secrets, the deep truth of our relationship, the fundamental physics of our relationship to our world have been minced and parceled and in many cases deleted from the texts, leaving us with a sense that we are essentially powerless beings. Mm-hmm. And if you are powerless, then you are a victim. And if you're a victim, you need a savior. And that savior is coming to us on a silver plate in terms of technology, in terms of political leaders. I will save you if you just do these things. And this is why I say I think one of the most powerful acts and the most radical act we can do is to think for ourselves original thinking based upon the deep truth of our relationship to our bodies and the earth, not based upon the false assumptions of obsolete science that permeate our academic world right now. It's one of the reasons I left academia. It's one of the reasons many of my colleagues who are in this genre, who are very well-respected scientists, have left academia because they were not allowed to share with students and in their writings and their papers what they had found in their research that reflects a very different reality. Now, for me, it's good news. It's a beautiful message of hope and possibility as a sovereign biological being. For a system that's based on centralized power and control, it's probably the worst news they could imagine, because it means we don't need the centralized power and control. I think ultimately we're all better off by embracing our own power because it frees us from the fear of a changing world. And we all know our world, my world is changing, your world is changing. Nor is it ever. Yeah. Faster than we can document it in our classrooms and textbooks. But the change isn't necessarily bad until we compare it to what we've known in the past, and this is where the fear comes in. So the new discoveries helping us to understand we are part of rather than separate from our world. And this is where the affirmations come in. So I was at the CERN superconducting supercollider in Geneva, Switzerland, where the physics experiments that are revealing what happened moments after our universe began. They recreate the beginning of our universe, and then they're able to document what happened then to create the laws of physics that we are experiencing, that we're living under right now. And what they announced in 2012 is that there is in fact a field, an intelligent field of energy. It's a subtle energy that underlies all of creation. Before then, it was a metaphor, or a lot of people felt like it was a New Age concept. You know, we are all one. Everything is connected. Or an indigenous. You know, a lot of indigenous elders talk about this. Here's where they got stuck. And I've gone to scientific conferences where they'll take their hands and they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's no longer controversial. There's a field out there that connects all things," and their hands go like this. There's a field out there that connects all things, because subconsciously they're still saying we're separate from that field.
Right.
But here's what the science is showing us, and this was a game changer for me, just a mind blower, that every atom in every molecule and every cell of our bodies in this very instant, so it's not like it's about to happen, it's happening right now. Every atom is constantly emerging and collapsing into that field. And what that says to us is that we are the field. It's not the fields out there. We literally are wrinkles. We are disturbances in this field, this body that is held in place by a conscious awareness as long as I'm breathing on this earth. I am a disturbance. I'm a localized wrinkle in that field. And what that means is that if I want to bring about change in my world, I don't have to force a change out there. I become that change. And as I have become that change, the field is now reflecting what it is because I'm part of the field. So it's a subtle, but it's a very powerful way, very different way of thinking. You're not imposing change on the world around you. You are becoming the change. So you're becoming the abundance. You're becoming the love, the gratitude, the care, the healing. You're becoming those things, and that is very different. We're conditioned to ask for them, to plead for them, because we're led to feel powerless in our lives, when in fact there are modalities of ancient prayer that were edited from the religious texts in the 4th century by the church. They took out the information helping us to understand this deep relationship, leaving us powerless. And affirmations are essentially a form of prayer, or prayer is a form of affirmation, however you want to look at it, where we are communicating. And I want to be really clear, it's not about control, it's not about manipulation, it's not about imposing our will, it's about participating in the way that this field unfolds and expresses in our lives. And when you really begin to get that shift, it's subtle and it's powerful. It's not making something happen out there. And that means you can't blame what's out there for your experiences. I come from a very dysfunctional, broken family, and I had to make a choice early in life as to whether or not I would, and community, as to whether or not I would allow that to define my experience, to define my existence. Other people around me had the same experience, and they made very different choices. They today continue to blame their environment, their parents, their family, their upbringing for the sad and unfortunate things in their lives, and that's a path. It's not right, wrong, good, or bad, but we have a choice to make another path. And when we began as a scientist, beginning to understand these relationships gave me the reason to think differently. And it also gave me the reason to test in my life if those thoughts are really true or not, what works and what doesn't.
I know you all have big goals, big dreams, big aspirations, just like I do. You've got ambitions to become an amazing person, to build your career, to create, to contribute, to give, to be an awesome human being. But all of that is impossible without great habits set up. If you don't have routine and structure set up in a way that will keep you on track, then you'll fall off. And having new goals without new habits is kind of like, having a new car without wheels. The habits are the wheels. They're the things that make you able to achieve the goals. So you got to have good habits. But the challenge for most people isn't that knowledge. I mean, you need to have good habits. It's you can't keep the habit going, right? Have you ever started at the new year, you're gonna get healthier, and you start that habit of working out on a more regular basis, and then it goes away? Or you say, you know, I'm gonna be more kind and more patient and more awesome to my partner, my lover, and you start being nice for 2 or 3 days, and then on the 4th day, you're a jerk, you know, and you're like, what happened? I said I was gonna be nicer. It's that you didn't set up the most important thing you needed to maintain a habit. So what's the biggest secret I've learned in almost 20 years in this field? It's so simple, but most people don't have it. It's called trigger moments. You have to set up trigger moments to activate your habits. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you want to become a better person. You know, you want to become more kind, more patient, more loving with people. Now, you can just set that intention or write that down in your vision, or your journal, or set up on a vision board that you look at once in a while. But in day-to-day life, it's not enough. You need things to trigger you, to remind you to be that particular kind of person, right? It's almost like if you could have a little angel speaking in your ear all day long to tell you what to do and how to be, you'd obviously become better. Well, that makes sense. Well, let's use that idea. Let's use that idea by setting up alarms on our phones that trigger us to do the very things we need to do. This is gonna be so basic, you're gonna laugh, and then I'll also tell you how I've literally taught this to Fortune 50 CEOs, and they said it was the one thing that changed their life the most dramatically. So let's start with this. Let's have a goal in mind. Let's say you want to become more present and calm throughout the day. Again, you could write that down on a journal. I'm gonna be more present and calm. You could meditate in the morning saying, today I'm gonna be more present and calm. And you could start out with good intentions, but those fall apart without a trigger moment set up throughout the day to remind you that. So what if you did this? What if you just set up on your phone 3 alarms during the day with a label that said, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths in, remind yourself to be calm. So let's say you're going through your day, it's crazy, right? It's 10 a.m. and all of a sudden, bing, your phone goes off, you look down and it says, close your eyes, take 10 deep breaths. And then again, it happens at 2 o'clock. And again, it happens at 6 p.m. And again, it happens at 8 p.m. What's gonna happen? You always look at your phone, don't you? It's gonna go throughout the day, you're gonna forget. And the funniest thing is, I've had so many people do this worldwide. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of people I've taught to do this, hundreds of thousands. And they tell me all the time, that changed everything. And you'll think, once you set it up, that the next day, you'll forget about it. No, that alarm will go off. You forgot you set the dang alarm. There it goes off in your face, and you're like, all right, I'm trying to be calmer and more present. Close my eyes, take 10 deep breaths, reground myself, here we go. You can't do it once a day. You have to have moments throughout the day that trigger you to enact the new behavior. I know this makes sense to you, but it's a challenge for a lot of people because they never set those things up. So what if you did it with an alarm? So for example, for me on the opposite spectrum, I don't want to just be calmer and more present. I want more energy throughout the day. So here's what I do. One of my big trigger moments is every time my butt hits a chair, I don't care if I'm on a plane or I was like where we're shooting here, I wrote a lot of my books here. I wrote the Motivation Manifesto here. I wrote The Charge here. And if I'm going to write, my butt hits the chair, I grab my phone, I open the timer, and I set 50 minutes. Now at 50 minutes, the timer goes, bzzz, it starts buzzing, and I look at that and I go, oh, that's my trigger to get energy. So I stand up, I go get some water, I take a glass of water, drink it down, I do some stretches, and I do some exercise just really briefly, or I'll go for a walk, whatever it is, but I'll do something that usually takes just 2 to 5 minutes. Then I'll sit back down, I'll set that 50-minute alarm, and I'll work. And what that does is every 50 minutes, it triggers me to change how I'm physically moving. It changes my attention so that throughout the day, I'm continually refreshed. So I never have that 2, 3, 4 o'clock time where I'm like, you know? Why? Because I've triggered my day so that my energy is maintained throughout the day. Makes sense, right? This could be as simple as, let's say you want to be healthier in your life. Okay, let's set up some trigger moments for you in this way. Let's say every time you drop off the kids, on the way back to the house, you stop at the grocery store and get some fresh produce. That's just a trigger. It's like, okay, did one thing, drop kids off. Now, tied to that, triggered from that action, drop kids off, is go to health food store. Or let's say you want to get healthier in the morning. One of the easiest ways to help people maintain a better exercise program is this. set a trigger. You wake up in the morning, your first action is to drink water, put your exercise shoes on. Might get dressed if you were naked, just saying. So you get dressed, put your shoes on, you go downstairs or you go to the gym, and that's the trigger. You woke up, you do these actions. Nothing interrupts those actions, that's the action. And you have to have those set up. One of my other favorite trigger moments to set up is door frame triggers. What do you mean by that? When you walk into a new room, to have a psychological trigger go off in your mind that you've associated with that door frame. So let me give you an example. If I walk into my house at night, if I've been working all day and I'm gonna walk in, I'm gonna see my lady, I have it so when I ever walk through the doors of my house, 3 words repeat off immediately in my mind because I've done it so many times consciously. I went to the door, I said the 3 words, said the 3 words, said the 3 words, and I did this so many times that now when I walk through a door, my mind automatically triggers those 3 words, and I remember to be those 3 words. So what words would you love to have describe you as a person? That you would be happy if that was how people described you? What would those words be? Have those and now set them up in your life. I teach executives to do this as well. I have them have a door frame trigger when they walk into their office in the morning. As soon as they walk through that door frame, they have, boom, 3 words go through their mind about how they want to be perceived as a leader. I have them set up another door frame. Every time they walk into a meeting, into the conference room, when they walk through the doors of the conference room, they have another 3 words that trigger off for them. And it just reminds them how to be. So these aren't big, crazy things. A lot of people think they have to completely change their life. What would change your life completely is setting up more trigger moments and associations that when you see something, you do this. That when this action is taken, then that happens. That when you have the opportunity to set up alarms on your phone, you set them up so that you're interrupted in your everyday life to remind yourself to stick to the habits, to stick to the intention. You do that enough on a continual basis, you'll find yourself in so many ways completely rejuvenated, and I promise you'll stick to your habits even more. And once you do that, you know that everything changes.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome.
If you want to learn the billionaire habits that can make you wealthy, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Well, in terms of a day-to-day habit, I think being curious about the world, how the world works, and curious about technology, and curious about everything, really. I think curiosity is a very important thing to have. And then